Welcome to No Broken Legs. I am your host, Evan Belfiore. Joining me on the phone is my co-host, Jimmy Champ. Jimmy, how are you this evening?
Man, I'm doing great, bro. It's good to be back. We've taken this little hiatus during basketball, but it's good to be back talking some football, and then we'll be revving up for the basketball playoffs here soon, too. But it's kind of wild. The draft is in Cleveland, and we don't have the number one pick. It's kind of crazy, but I'm still excited to talk about it.
And not only not the number one pick, not even in the top 10, not even in the top 20, selecting probably not 26. I'm assuming they're going to do something, but I guess that's a good place to start, Jimmy. Do the Browns actually make a pick at 26, or do they make a move up or a move back?
Yeah, I don't think they move. I think 26 is actually a really good spot for them. I think we all imagine they're looking to bolster linebacker, secondary. I think you've got a lot of great choices that should still be on the board at 26 for either. Now, if they've fallen in love with one of maybe the edge rushers or the linebackers that might be projecting a little bit higher, I could see them moving up. I don't see them really making a big splash for the couple biggest name secondary guys, because then you're looking to get into the top 15, and I don't think Andrew Berry's going to make that kind of move. So I see him actually staying put at 26. I imagine their draft board's there's probably for the first round, there's probably about 5 or 6 linebackers, 3 or 4 cornerback safeties, and they'll take the best available when it comes to them.
I just don't. I know they need a linebacker, and I know it makes sense that they take a linebacker, especially somebody that can actually play in the middle of the field with some speed. I just don't think they value that position. I really think they're going to wind up going with either an edge rusher or another cornerback, because I've asked before, can we trust Greedy Williams?
I think right now we have to say no. At this point, we have to say no. You can't trust him.
We just don't know if he can. We just don't know if he can play.
You know, I kind of love Andrew Berry's remarks that, I'm not really drafting to fill a need today because my need tomorrow could be different. I'm looking more long-term with every draft pick. I like that approach. I think we need inside linebackers that can tackle. But if they go cornerback, I have no problem with that. There are some quality, I think, ready to start or play in a rotation guys that they can get at the end of the first round without giving up any draft picks.
Yeah, I just don't. Daryl Ryder, the local Cleveland beat reporter for the Browns, has said the Browns have 9 picks and they're not going to draft 9 rookies. Like, that's probably not going to happen. So right. I think the Browns are going to make a lot of moves day 2, day 3. Probably only end up taking 6 or 7 guys in this draft, and probably getting some picks in the future, and maybe moving up in the maybe see him move up in the 3rd round, maybe see him move from the 4th round up to the 3rd round, try and take a swing at some more defensive players that can maybe make an impact.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. They've got some draft capital, and there aren't a lot of glaring holes on either side of the ball. So it makes sense to just get some talent and some depth. And for all we know, Andrew Berry may think things about Odell and Jarvis that we don't. He may even be targeting a wide receiver in the 2nd and 3rd round. I don't know, but I'm trusting their process. I like the things Berry has said, but I can see them not actually making 9 picks. Maybe you turn those 9 picks into 3 or 4 picks in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, I'd like that a lot, especially if you're trading 4th and 5th rounders to move up. Those picks are all crapshoots at that point anyway, so you may as well move up and take somebody you like higher on the board.
Yeah, and there are a lot of teams that are struggling with the cap, or a lot of teams that are just short on quality players that might have to mortgage some stuff to make as many picks as possible.
Well, I think your point about the Browns being able to let the draft come to them is really on point. We're looking at 3 quarterbacks going at the top of the draft, maybe 5 quarterbacks in the first 10 picks. I know they say this every year, but It's looking like a possibility. There was some breaking news that happened this afternoon. The Carolina Panthers and Denver Broncos worked out a trade. It does not involve either of their first-round picks, but Denver is getting Teddy Bridgewater, and I believe it was for a sixth-round pick, I think.
Yeah, I think it was for 6, and I think I know.
I just don't understand how Teddy Bridgewater is only worth a sixth-round pick.
Oh, I completely agree. I think that's cement who I think the Broncos are taking with that pick. I understand it, and it makes sense, which is weird because Elway doesn't normally do things that make sense at quarterback. But
so you don't think Denver's going to take a quarterback at 9?
I do. I think they're going to take. I think they're going to take Trey Lance.
Okay, so you think Trey Lance will be there when they pick at 9?
I do. I do think Lance will be there, and I think they take Lance, and I think you get Teddy for a 6th-round pick, which is nothing. Most likely, whoever you drafted in the 6th round wasn't going to make your roster anyway. And you get a competent NFL quarterback for that. So if Trey Lance isn't ready to play come the start of the season, you do have a guy that you can play, because there are rumors out there that Denver is also working something with Atlanta that would send Drew Lock to Atlanta, which then also, to me, cements what I think Atlanta is going to do, because that would give them their Matt Ryan succession plan.
Just dear Atlanta, that's a bad plan. That's just a bad plan. I don't know if they watched Denver Broncos games last year. I know I watched some, and he's not good.
No,
he's not a good quarterback.
No, I agree with you. Is he? Do I think he's a top 32 quarterback in the NFL? No.
Well, then what are we talking about? How's he a succession plan?
Well, it's just that Atlanta just.
I know I'm asking you to defend Atlanta, which isn't an easy task, but that's a really bad plan.
No, but I think it's like worst case scenario, because Atlanta did just restructure Matt Ryan. I think they see Matt Ryan playing a couple more years, but I
agree.
It's worst case scenario. Matt Ryan has a 6-week injury. Maybe we can win 2 games with Drew Lock.
I still think that's a bad plan. I mean, trying to go 2-3 in a 5-game absence with it's just pass. Find a different plan. Especially if you have to give up assets to get him. He's just not a good quarterback. Denver's telling you he's not a good quarterback. They just traded for Teddy Bridgewater, and they're probably taking Trey Lance at 9. They're telling you he's not the answer.
Yeah. They might be.
That's sort of how I feel, and just we'll have our good friend Brandon Fenty, resident Jets expert, is going to be on shortly. The Jets just got rid of Sam Darnold, so Carolina's basically saying we're all aboard the Sam Darnold train, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to talk to Brandon about the fact that it looks like the Jets got rid of Sam Darnold to draft Sam Darnold. So who? I mean, it's all signs point to the Jets drafting Zach Wilson, which to me they just got rid of Sam Darnold to draft Sam Darnold, which is
they got the updated version, version 1.1.
Well, I don't know if that's enough of an upgrade, bud.
Oh, and speak of the devil, here is Brandon. Wait, did that work?
I don't know. Did it?
Brandon!
Oh my God.
Brandon!
It is I.
What's up, man?
Nothing much. How you guys doing?
Good.
We're doing good. We were just getting ready to talk about what your Jets are doing at number 2.
Oh my goodness.
So just real quick.
I know exactly what they're going to do.
Just real quick, congratulations to your wife on now becoming an official American citizen.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes.
She has signed away her soul to Uncle Sam, as we all have done at birth. So I told her what's next is high cholesterol and jury duty. That's what she has to look forward to. So
boom.
Yeah.
Well, she should be paying attention to some NFL because there's a big draft tomorrow, Brandon. And Trevor Lawrence is going to go first to Jacksonville. Do we really need to talk about it? I mean, we've known this for about a month and a half.
I don't think so.
And it's the right pick. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is as can't miss as so many have projected him, but he's the best player in this draft, especially if you're a team that needs a quarterback like Jacksonville. It's the right thing to do. I applaud them for just staying at number one, not playing any cloak and dagger games, and doing the right thing for their organization.
All right. Well, that brings us to pick number 2 in the New York Jets, Brandon. We just mentioned that they just traded Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers, and Jimmy very, very pointedly, man, I can't put that together. Jimmy just remarked that they traded away Sam Darnold, and it looks like they're going to draft the new version of Sam Darnold, who is Zach Wilson from BYU, who I swear to God was the guy at the end of that Key and Peele bit.
No, that was Dan Smith. Dan Smith, BYU. Because the skit was from, 2016 or 15, something like that.
Yeah,
Dan
but
Smith,
that's
BYU.
him. That's who Zach Wilson is.
Yeah, I think, look, I've been high on Justin Fields, and I know that he's not going to be there. And I believe we were just talking about the draft previous where a bunch of teams missed on Deshaun Watson and decided to go to Evan's favorite character Evan's favorite guy way before him. So I think this is going to be another situation like that where teams are just going to, especially the Jets, we're going to be looking back 10 years from now like, man, they really blew that on a guy who's, like you said, Darnold 2.0. He's not going to add much to the offense other than what Darnold already had. So
it just doesn't sound like you're very high on this.
I've been wanting. So okay, who do you look at? A proven winner who has done it time and time again, who did it on the biggest stage against the biggest teams, who has arm strength. He has to work on. I'm talking about Justin Fields. He has to work on reading the field a little bit, but that's teachable. I'm talking about the intangibles that people love to use those type of phrases for draft prospects, and he has all of the intangibles to be an NFL quarterback, for years to come. And I just didn't see. I see Zach Wilson as, like you said, another Darnold, another print copy and print type quarterback that you can sort of plug in. And I get it. That's the direction that Robert Saleh wants to go. That's the direction management wants to go with their offense. But I just think we're going to be looking back 5, 6, 7 years from now and talking about how they missed out on Justin Fields. And yeah, it's not going to be a good look again for the Jets.
So Brandon,
I agree.
He doesn't really like it. He wants Fields. You think they should take Fields as well, Jimmy?
If I was taking a quarterback, I would take Justin Fields, and if I wasn't taking Fields, I would take Mac Jones. I don't think Mac Jones is as good as Justin Fields, but I think he's more proven than Zach Wilson and Trey Lance. He played well in big games. I know he'll never have the kind of talent in the NFL around him that he had at Alabama, but I think he's a good quarterback. I don't understand getting rid of Sam Darnold to draft Zach Wilson. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's just crazy. I just think it's absolutely nuts. But
the definition of insanity.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. Like, I don't know what the hell else Justin Fields could have done. Like, and especially, like, a calendar year ago, Justin Fields was considered very close to Trevor Lawrence. Like, they were they were the quarterbacks in this class. And I don't understand what the hell Justin Fields did wrong to get 2 other quarterbacks in front of him.
Well, I think there's teams that are scared with his epilepsy diagnosis, which is I'm just very uncomfortable talking about it in general. But he seems to have been very upfront with NFL teams about it. I didn't see it affect his play at Ohio State, so I don't know what the worry is there. But we have seen NFL teams will be very anti-risk when it comes to long-term injuries like that. So that could be what it is, but I think that's a mistake because I think Justin Fields is really good. Now, I'm not a big Mac Jones fan, Jimmy, or at least I don't understand why San Francisco would trade so many assets for Mac Jones. How do you square that?
I don't really understand it either. I don't understand giving up what 49ers gave up to get anyone in this draft other than Trevor Lawrence. Like, I don't understand it. if it was me and I gave up those assets, I would be taking Justin Fields.
I do have a. Go ahead. Sorry.
All signs point to Mac Jones. He's not bad. I don't think he's as good as Justin Fields. I guess I can understand it. Kyle feels like he can work with him. Kyle probably deserves that benefit of the doubt from his GM. I do think it would be wild if the Niners did something different and didn't take Mac Jones. Like, I would kind of like that to happen because there's so many reports that that's what's happening. But I just can't understand giving up what they gave up for anybody in this draft other than Trevor Lawrence.
Do you think it's totally a scheme pick that they looked at it at the draft and said, looking at who Kyle Shanahan, right? Looking at the scheme that he always wins. Do you see that being the best fit for that scheme down there or over there?
I just don't. If Jimmy Garoppolo is healthy, I don't know how Mac Jones is. Like, you would give up what they gave up to go with Mac Jones over Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, I don't understand it. But I do agree with you. It's got to be scheme. But I don't see how Kyle Shanahan doesn't look at Justin Fields and go, ooh, what I could do with that. Like, it's just weird to me.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. It just doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense to me. It's just everything after Zach, like taking Zach Wilson at 2 doesn't make sense to me, and taking Mac Jones at 3 doesn't seem to make sense to me either. I don't understand why you would take what looks like the 3rd and 4th best quarterbacks with the 2nd and 3rd picks. I can't understand that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree.
I was looking at Trey Lance. I know we're still talking about 3 at 49ers, but that guy Lance is good.
Well, there's reports that 49ers are looking at him and Mac Jones. Now that I can't believe that they would have made that trade without knowing exactly who they wanted, but that's what the reports say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And from a school like a North Dakota State, which you don't really see a whole lot coming out of there. Just looking at highlights, looking at some game film and some of his numbers that he's putting up. It's like, wow, where the hell did this guy come from? Have I been living under a rock for the last 10 months? Like that guy's real good.
No, because they don't show a whole lot of clips of quarterbacks playing defenses that are made up of us.
Oh yeah. Hey, I was something back in my day. I could run a sub 1040. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, who's North Dakota State really playing? And you're not going to get a primetime game unless you're looking, ESPN 10 or ESPN 11, however many they have. That's where they play. So,
yeah, I just can't believe San Francisco made that move to draft Trey Lance. I kind of refuse to believe it. As a front office,
just doesn't sound right.
As a front office, they've done a really good job, and I can't believe that's the decision they've made. Because one of the main comps, the 2 main comps you're getting with Trey Lance is a little bit of Carson Wentz and a smaller Josh Allen. Well, if Josh Allen was smaller, he wouldn't have had a chance to be as successful as he's been in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, he takes a lot of punishment. But Trey Lance is 6'2", 225, so he's stout. He's not slight of frame like I'll just throw Johnny Manziel's name out there as a quarterback that would take pictures with very attractive women, and you'd ask, why are the women bigger than our quarterback?
Yeah.
He's a tiny guy.
I just think if the 49ers draft Trey Lance there, they're gonna regret that. And I don't think it'll be 10 years. I think it'll be 2 or 3 years.
Do you think that Jimmy G stays where he's at? I've seen rumors of trade. I've seen his old stomping grounds as one of the higher destinations, which I don't see happening. But
I think if you draft Trey Lance, you have to keep Jimmy G on the slight chance that Trey Lance can't be good against NFL defenses.
Yeah.
I think that's fair, but I also think
fair assessment.
I think part of the equation of them trading 3 first-round picks to move up was that they thought they could get a first-round pick for Jimmy G back. Now that's not going to happen. At least they're not going to get a first-round pick this year. Maybe they can get one next year, but it's looking more like a second or third-round pick's the best they can do.
Yep.
All right, so let's just quickly go through some of the other spots here, and this is all great stuff for Browns fans because the more offensive players that come off the board, the better the defensive player the Browns are going to get. Yes. Number 4, all signs point to Atlanta taking Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida. I think taking a weapon makes perfect sense there, especially if they trade Julio Jones. You guys agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely do. I don't think, I hate hearing quarterback of the future talks. I mean, Matt Ryan still's got plenty in the tank. I was screamed at by a few Browns fans for calling him Matty Ice. They're like, no, don't do that. That doesn't fly in Cleveland. We don't appreciate that. It's like, okay, well, but either way, yeah, I think Kyle Pitts there definitely makes sense. I mean, who wouldn't want a giant tight end or a decent tight end to dump it down to or get you some yards in the clutch, which, I mean, they've had, some in the past, but it definitely looks like they need some help offensively.
All right, moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals at 5. Everybody says they're going to take Jamar Chase, even though, Jimmy, just to ask, how did last season end for Joe Burrow?
Yeah, I think
why aren't they taking an offensive lineman?
People are overthinking this, and they're not giving the Bengals front office enough credit. They have to take Penei Sewell.
Oh, yeah.
Take the best offensive lineman in the draft. You got to protect Joe Burrow. I mean, really losing A.J. Green, did that really do anything? Is that really a weapon?
A.J. Green hasn't played in basically 4 years because he's been, as I'm sure many of our listeners can attest, he's been one of those fringe fantasy players that you always kind of keep an eye on to see if he'll recapture anything, and he just doesn't.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if they decide to pass on the O-lineman, then I could see them taking the wide receiver, but they have to take. There's no way you can expect Burrow to be any better with the offensive line you have in front of him. You've got to get better at that position for Burrow to succeed.
Yeah, you win football in the trenches, especially with a young quarterback. That's something the Browns did very well with Baker Mayfield, I'm very happy to say.
Yep.
Look, I'm as pro O-lineman as anybody out there. In my early Pee-wee days when a young tenderloin Brandon was out there, because I was the largest guy on the field, they threw me out to the O-line. So, I was throwing guys around left and right, but it's still in me. So I really want to see an O-lineman for the Bengals, like you said. Rarely, and as a Jets fan, I kind of keep an eye out on the other bottom feeders in other divisions just to see how we're doing against them. But I look at the Bengals. I'm like, man, that Joe Burrow guy is really good. He came out, ready for the NFL, and he was doing great. But like you said, without a no line to keep you up, you're going to be in Sam Darnold territory. Not saying Sam Darnold's the same as Joe Burrow, but you'll be looking 3 years down the line, and they're going to say, oh, we need to draft a quarterback, and it'll be the same situation.
Yeah, you didn't put him in a position to succeed, and then you're wondering why he fails.
Yeah,
no, there's that logic again.
We saw that for 20 years with the Browns, so we're well acquainted with that game.
Yeah.
So
I actually honestly had early. I know a lot of draft boards early on had Sewell. They were looking. The Jets were looking at him real early on, but it's signed, sealed, delivered for the Jets taking Zach Wilson at number 2, and this is definitely where I had Sewell going to the Bengals. So
yep.
Yeah, it makes so much sense that I actually think the Bengals will fuck it up and not take the line because it's the Bengals. It's the same way I feel about Zach Wilson. If Zach Wilson was getting drafted by anybody but the Jets at 2, I'd probably think different about the selection. But it's the Jets, and I just assume it's going to fail, and that's. I didn't think it was going to work with Baker in Cleveland. So, take some solace there, Brandon.
Wait, so you're telling me that all of this talk about character and culture change every 3 years isn't doing it for you?
No, it didn't work in Cleveland. I mean, they did that cycle like 8 or 9 times. I mean, Mike Holmgren was here, and like Eric Mangini was here, and just all sorts of names were here, and they were terrible.
Yeah.
So, Jimmy, you think Trey Lance is going to go number 9 for the Broncos. So that leads to the big question of the draft, which is going to be, where does Justin Fields end up?
Wherever the Patriots have to move to draft him.
You think that's where it's going?
Yes. Wow. I think if they think nobody else is going to jump him, I think they stay at 15 and take him there. I could see them moving up to 10 with the Cowboys, because the Cowboys are probably looking secondary. I could see them making a trade with the Cowboys to get to 10, to take Fields. I don't believe that the Patriots aren't going to take Justin Fields. Like their offense looked okay at times with a broken Cam Newton. I can't imagine how good it could look with Justin Fields.
Oh, I had him anywhere from 3 to 9. But if the Patriots are there at I saw a couple of mock drafts at 7. If they move up for the Lions, they might take him there. I've seen him at Denver. I just don't see him dropping past the pick 9 or 10. So he's
and I could see I could absolutely see them working with the Lions or the Panthers to get to 7 or 8 to get Fields. But I see Justin Fields being drafted by the Patriots tomorrow.
God, please no.
I was gonna say everybody's gonna hate that.
I like the guy. If I like you, you can't play for the Patriots. my like for Cam Newton has dropped significantly. I used to be a huge Cam Newton fan, but as soon as he signed that contract, I was like, I just can't cheer for you anymore. I can't.
Well, as Ohio State Buckeye fans, we have watched just Buckeye talent get drafted by the Steelers and kick the shit out of the Browns for just years and years and years. So we know your pain, man. Any solace in any of these teams that possibly need a quarterback strike your fancy? The Jets draft at 11. The Giants draft at 11. Is there any chance that they draft a quarterback in the first round?
I don't think so. I think at 11, I had Devonta Smith if he's still on the board. They're
looking to build around Jones.
Yeah, so I don't see that. New York Giants always seem to want edge rushers, so whoever the highest edge rusher would be on the, that'd still be on the board at 11. So I've seen, and I'm going to mispronounce his name here, Kwity Paye.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm terrible with names sometimes. But yeah, I really think that they should try to get Devonta Smith. They need some help offensively. They really need it. So
yeah, I think they still want to prove that Danny Duke is the guy. You went out, you got Kenny Golladay. Now you draft. I think at 11, one of the 3 main wide receivers in the draft are still going to be available. You take whichever one that is. I know if I was taking a wide receiver, the first one off the board for me would be Devonta Smith. I know everybody has Chase and Waddle ahead of him. That's fine. But if Smith is there at 11 on the Giants, that's who I take.
Is there any chance that Pitts drops down to 11, or do you definitely have him going way up on the board?
I'm with you with Atlanta. I don't see how you pass on him.
Yeah.
Even if they
especially since it does look like maybe Julio's movable. I don't see how you pass on Pitts. If you can run a Calvin Ridley Pitts stack, I think that's trouble for every defense.
Oh yeah, that dude's massive. I mean, that's a huge target to throw to.
I think even if, let's say, Atlanta takes Jamar Chase or one of the receivers and Kyle Pitts is out there, Pitts isn't getting by Cincinnati, Miami, the Chargers, and Carolina. He's not getting through there. Available. Yeah, or somebody's going to move up and get him. He's too good.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So here's a sneaky team for Justin Fields. What if he falls to, say, 19, where Washington's drafting?
Oh, yeah, they take him. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep him off the Patriots, to be honest. I don't want to see him in that uniform.
They're another team that needs O-line help too. But if Fields is there, you kind of have to pick best player at that point. That'll be the talk of everyone's draft board. It'll be the talk of every analyst out there doing analysis at the time. Oh, who's going to take Fields? He would definitely go there.
Okay, and I'll even go. I'll go 2 picks ahead of that. If Fields is there at 17, do the Raiders take him?
That is a juicy question, Jimmy. That is a very juicy question. Because we know Gruden's not totally sold on Carr.
And Justin Fields seems like he would be a Gruden grinder.
He would look good in the silver and black. You have to admit that.
He would.
They've got. Yeah, Derek Carr is a little overrated, in my opinion. I've never been high on him. I know they have a few other guys in waiting. I'm pretty sure Mariota's still there, Marcus Mariota. But at that point, that's a good question. I wouldn't see him. I think he'll be off the board at that time. But you got to take a hard look at him if you're the Raiders to say, do you take this guy? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree.
All right, so I took a look at the over-unders, and I just want to throw a couple of these out there and see what you guys think. And the first thing we have to remember, this is a 17-game season this year. So the AFC teams have 9 home games, and the NFC teams will have 8 home games. That's how they're splitting things up this first year. And some of these just jumped off the page. The first one that jumped off was the Kansas City Chiefs over-under is 12. And if I can place a bet that the Chiefs are going to go at worst 12-5, I'm going to place that bet every time I can.
Yep, I did know that.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like it's far fetched. I mean, we're talking about the Chiefs here. Depending on how many players are healthy early in the season, how fresh Pat Mahomes comes out, I don't see them losing more than 3 or 4 games for the season. So if we're talking over 12, then I'd be okay with that.
San Francisco with their brand new quarterback, their over/under currently sits at 10.5. And that's a tough NFC West with Seattle, Arizona, and the LA Rams.
Oh yeah.
I think they're still going to end up being I think this year they're the worst team in the NFC West. So I'd have that as an under for myself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And these are just, some quick looks. The Packers are only 10.5 on their over/under, which I thought was a little low. I figure in a 17-game season, they'll probably get to 11 or 12 wins.
Yep.
Same with the Buffalo Bills are at 10.5 too. Like some of these just seem like you can get some real value on some over bets.
Can we take 30 seconds just to acknowledge one of my long-standing issues with the Buffalo Bills fans?
Yes, if you want to trash the Bills, go right ahead, Brandon.
Look, so as, same division, but Jets fans always kind of sort of cheer for the Bills. Bills fans don't realize that. And Bills fans have this sense of entitlement where it's like, oh, we've been there. It's like, dude, Jim Kelly's like 25 years ago. Come on, guy. You know what I mean? Like it's we're done with that. You shouldn't have this sense of entitlement. You haven't been there. You got a great season last season, but Bills Mafia. No fans are more obnoxious verbally, in my opinion, than the Bills. That is an argument by itself, a whole podcast by itself. But yeah, I just wanted to get on the soapbox and take the mic for a second to hate on the Bills fans, and I'm done.
I like it. I like letting the sports hate flow, and that would be a great podcast topic. And I would nominate Boston baseball fans. But before we get way off track, our Cleveland Browns are only 9.5 for their over/under. I think that's low.
I'm taking the over for the Browns. I think it sucks that most of the places I've seen it, it's a minus either way you go because nobody's really sure what the hell the Browns are going to look like this year. I think they're going to win 11 or 12 games. So for me, it's an easy bet.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Just based on roster talent alone, defensively, offensively, special teams, how do you say 9.5? You got to go over they're going to be more than that. It's got to be over on that.
I agree. The Pro Football Focus ratings have the Browns as the second best roster in the league, which just it's a weird sentence to say.
Yeah,
and I'm not really sure how to respond to it.
So tough division, we get it. Baltimore is always a tough out. They always figure it out, and I say this every year. Browns fans never want to hear it, but it's true. They always figure out how to be competitive, and they're going to be in every game. But what's the analysis behind that 9.5? How are they making that? That's what I question.
So last year, go ahead, Jimmy.
My honest reply to that is, I think even a lot of the people that are making the lines and running the sports books really have no idea if Baker Mayfield is good or not.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%.
At this point.
I think there's a lot of talk in the media about Baker Mayfield, specifically coming from Colin Cowherd, and that sort of segment of, he's constantly railing on Baker Mayfield, and I think that his really overshadowed what is Baker Mayfield's record, which is in his rookie season, he set the rookie touchdown record. Then he had the worst head coach I've ever seen, who was a child and should not have been in charge of an NFL team, and everything fell apart. They had an adult in charge last season, and he looked every bit the part of a number one draft pick, especially in the second half of the season. They had time to grow. Kevin Stefanski, Baker Mayfield is going to start and end an off-season with the same coaching staff for the first time since he was in college. Like, that's going to help.
Yeah.
Like, I'm to the point now when, and it's even still Browns fans, there are still plenty of Browns fans that are just so afraid of backing their quarterback because we've had the laundry list. But when I hear the Baker Mayfield slander, I point everybody to the huddle before he made the throw to Peoples-Jones in the Bengals game. Like, I'm gonna go win this thing, and then I'm gonna put this football in the only place I can put it to win this thing.
Yeah, and I also think you have to remember the over-unders. You do get a lot of public money on some of these, and I actually looked up our over-unders from last year. I went 21-9-2 picking over-unders, and Jimmy, I know you were right around that mark.
Yeah, I was about the same.
A lot of these lines don't make sense, and just go with your gut when you see them, because good teams are going to win a lot of games. Bad teams are going to lose a lot of games. It works out that way, and it seems to work out that way in the NBA too. They seem to keep the teams, sort of the top quarter of the teams, they underestimate how much they're going to win, and the top quarter or the bottom quarter of the teams, they estimate how many they're going to lose. Like, they can't seem to get it right.
Yeah. It's tough to predict, definitely. But that's way low. I think that's way low for the Browns.
Yeah.
I think they
9.5
they
seems
finish
crazy.
at least 12 or 13 wins.
Wow, 12-5, 13-4. That'd be huge.
Oh yeah.
They'd be hosting a first round playoff game.
Probably. Hey, if we can get tickets for that, I'm going.
There we go. We'll do live from outside the stadium.
Yo, absolutely.
Yeah,
all right, well, we got you here, Brandon. We can't let you go without a little bit of NBA talk. Looks like LeBron James is going to come back in the next week or two. Anthony Davis has come back. That seems to be the biggest story right now in the West, is where do the Lakers wind up seeding-wise? Do you think they wind up where they are now at 5? Do you think Dallas or Portland can catch them?
I don't think Dallas or Portland, neither Dallas nor Portland are going to catch them. I was listening to some other pods and reading some stories, doing some digging on the Mayfield, the Porzingis Luka Doncic relationship, and how, of course, now that they're not beating everybody by 20, 30 points, now all of a sudden they're having some contentious relationship. And I think that stuff rears its head in slow playoff games when Luka has the ball for 20 out of 24 seconds and tries to make some magic. And you have a guy like Porzingis who's capable, definitely capable. I always question why he's not a top 1 or 2 rebounder in the league, being that tall in general. But I don't think that neither Dallas nor Portland catches the Lakers. They finish either where they are now or one spot above where they're at right now.
Okay, so maybe they flip, and that wouldn't change their first round matchup, which would be with Denver. If the Lakers wind up playing Denver in round 1, no Jamal Murray, that's what, a 5-game series, maybe a sweep.
I would probably bet a sweep, but I'll take it in 5. That's fine.
And then they'd wind up playing. Do we think the Jazz stay the number 1 seed?
I think so. Yeah, I think yeah, I'll say yeah. Just I'm not going to flip flop. I think either Phoenix or Utah winds up with that number 1 seed. I just looking at the records the other day, it's like, where the hell is Phoenix just all of a sudden coming out of left field? But
43-18, just a game back of Utah.
Yeah, so I would not be surprised if Phoenix goes on a little 6-7 game run in this last couple of weeks of the season, and all of a sudden they're the 1 seed. But yeah, I think even one or two of them are going to be number one.
Any love for the Clippers? They've been playing some really good basketball lately.
I'm gonna look. You know how I feel about Paul George. I'm not. I try to. I'm very bearish on Paul George. So I don't think. I just don't think their construction is not bad. I mean, they've got a couple of other players that just worth mentioning. DeMarcus Cousins. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Boogie's not playing important minutes for them.
He may. I mean, he's right now he's like second or third string big guy option, but he made the comment the other day. Hey, I'm probably the first third string big man in the NBA history to still get double and triple teamed when I have the ball on the block. So, if that's a stat someone can look up, I'll be very impressed. How many third string big men got double teamed in the history of the NBA. And I think he might be a factor. I mean, they're constructed a little bit better this year. They're playing a little bit better this year than they have last year. I mean, last year was just an abomination of a season, in my opinion. And you just can't count out, Kawhi Leonard, Mr. Emotionless, but you just can't count him out during the playoffs. But I don't see them getting past, let's say they run into the Lakers. I don't see them getting past the Lakers. Honestly, I don't even see them getting past Denver. And I know that's a stretch if Denver, winds up beating the Lakers in the first round. But yeah, I think even without Murray, Denver still has enough talent on their roster. They have, one of the most non-athletic big men that is just killing everybody, Jokic. But it's crazy watching them. You guys have probably watched them play at least one or two games this season. But, the offense will go through him once they get into the half court. And all of a sudden, he's whipping some behind-the-head pass to someone else in the corner to just knock down that three. So with him running the offense, I think they still have enough to at least win a playoff series, depending on the matchup. But yeah, I don't have the Clippers going far in the playoffs at all.
Yeah, the Clippers' problem last year was they couldn't create in crunch time. Now, Jimmy, they pick up Rajon Rondo. Do you think he can help get them over the hump?
No.
Just flat out playoff Rondo doesn't matter.
No, I think every team that they would play in the Western Conference playoffs has a defender that can minimize playoff Rondo.
Yeah, that would be what would worry me in a series against, say, the Lakers. Like, what happens when they just tell Kyle Kuzma, who is playing really good defense and playing really good basketball this year, to just go smother Rajon Rondo? Then what happens to their offense?
Yep.
That gets diced up. Yeah, I see playoff. If there is still some playoff Rondo in the tank, and that is the defensive assignment for Kyle Kuzma. I see Kuzma getting torn to shreds, first of all, but yeah, I don't see it coming down to that. I'm not going to go as far as say the Clippers, would lose in the first round if they wind up playing a lower seeded team, but definitely second round. I don't see them get to the Western Conference Finals.
They're lined up with Dallas right now, and Dallas gave them all they could handle last year.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a tough out. I mean, like I say, even though I do think 22 seconds of Luka Doncic on offense isn't going to help them come playoff time if he doesn't hit miraculous and crazy shots. But yeah, that's not Dallas is no walk in the park for LA. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's any series against Dallas, you have to figure Luka's going to give you one or two games where you're just going to realize halfway through the third quarter, like, shit, we're just not winning this game.
Yeah, he's going to hit it. He's making one-legged three-pointers to win games these days. So yeah, you gotta give him all the credit in the world. So.
All right, Jimmy, how about out east? The Nets, the 76ers, the Bucks. Is there anybody else that can really compete out there? The Heat are getting a little talk, but I don't see them repeating what they did last year. It seems like one of those top three teams is going to the finals.
No, yeah, I think it's one of those three teams. Probably whichever one of them ends up with the one seed. I mean, I'm in love with Philly this year. I think that's who I'm going to ride with in the Eastern Conference. I just think they're nightmare matchups for the other two teams. We've still yet to see. I'm going to continue to pick against Giannis in the playoffs until Giannis does something in the playoffs. If Kevin Durant can actually stay healthy, it's going to be kind of hard to bet against Kevin Durant. But
you can still get the 76ers at plus 1,200.
Yeah, you can, and I think it's a super smart bet.
Yeah, I think not everyone, but I think the narrative this year, and LeBron has spoken about it, how sometimes for these awards it's more about the narrative of the conversation and less about what's actually going on the court. I'm really high on Jokic. I think what he's doing out there, even sans Murray, is worthy of MVP talks. But I think the narrative is surrounding Philly right now with Embiid. People really want to crown Embiid the postmaster king. So I think cementing him with an MVP would definitely do it.
I don't think he's played enough, and I think with Murray out, it's Jokic. It's Jokic is going to win this award.
Yeah. I hope so. Listen, he might jump just as high as Zydrunas Ilgauskas, and we know Z had probably the worst vertical leap of any big man.
Let's not get crazy. I mean, I have seen him lift off the ground.
You couldn't put.
I know there's a lot of him. Paper under Z. He has a lot of inertia to get going above gravity, but
yeah, it doesn't make sense how he's able to get the lift off. It's like like the SpaceX rocket that doesn't have all of the engines there. It's ridiculous, but how he's doing it out there, it's crazy. I would love to see Jokic win the MVP.
Yeah, I'm just excited. I'm excited to get to these playoffs because, I still think the Lakers, if they're healthy, I think they're the best team in basketball. I think they'll win another title. But there are teams in the Western Conference that are going to be fun to watch in the playoffs. Does Golden State make it? Does Steph do some wild shit and just knock somebody out that they shouldn't? Is Dame Time ready to take another step? But I just think the Eastern Conference, the second and third round in the Eastern Conference playoffs, are going to be so important for so many players' legacies. And we know these guys nowadays, they actually care about it. It's something they talk about. If the Nets lose a playoff series because James Harden went back to his milk carton and Kyrie didn't play defense, can we stop caring at all about anything Kyrie has to say about his time in Cleveland?
Yes, 100%. I kind of hope that happens. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I think one of the great things that we're going to get affects Mr. Fenty, our New York native. There's going to be playoff basketball at the Garden. It looks like they're pretty much locked into playing the Hawks. Can the Knicks get by the Hawks?
They can. They swept the series this season. I know that half of or I guess a quarter of the game this last game when they beat the Hawks. What's his name? Trae Young was got injured and sprained his ankle or something like that. Then the Knicks came back. They were down big and came back and snuck in and won the game. But if the Randall we see going on now is hopefully takes a step up in the playoffs, and with the coach they have, Knicks are a top 3 defense in the NBA. I love saying that. We haven't been able to say that in 20 years.
Now credit to Tibbs.
Exactly. Everybody knew it was going to happen, but the jump that they're taking and the way that Tibbs is able to get RJ Barrett to buy in, who's not really he's not showing signs of I want to take this over and I'm unhappy with the coach, so I need to leave this team. As some young players might show, but I really hope and I really think that they can beat the Hawks. Now the next round, maybe not so much, but I think they have a series in them this year. They definitely do. So I honestly even think they could beat Boston on the right.
I was just going to get to that. Boston is a game and a half behind Atlanta, and the Miami Heat are also a game and a half behind Atlanta. So the Knicks playing the Celtics would obviously be a huge story, and the Knicks playing the Heat would be a nice renewal of a rivalry that at one point had Jeff Van Gundy holding on to, what was it, Alonzo Mourning's leg as in part of a brawl.
So there's still something there.
They'll show that video a whole bunch of times. It'll be great.
Yes, definitely. There's still some animosity there.
I want the Knicks to do well in the playoffs, so I don't want them to play the Heat because I can see that being like a week and a half of Jimmy Butler just destroying Julius Randle.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that can happen. Although we saw that at this point in his career, Jimmy Butler can do that once every 2 or 3 games. That's what he's got in the tank. Because when he did that in the finals, he had those 2 big games, but the next games you could tell he was just spent.
Yep.
He's got Jimmy Butler's got a little bit of FU in him. So I think he's the type of guy, like you said, he'll go into the Garden, he'll see all the chutzpah about the Knicks, and he just goes into this mode where he's like, I'm not going to let this happen. Yeah, like, I will get to the rim. I'm going to get fouled. I'm going to make sure I have 25 and 5 every night, and we are going to beat the Knicks. So. And
I see the complete opposite of that with the Celtics roster.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I wouldn't be afraid of the Celtics. I wouldn't be afraid of the Hawks. But like I said, if it's against the Heat, that might be one where it's I'm not so a lot of uncertainty there. But yeah, definitely with the Celtics roster, Marcus Smart maybe is their biggest FU guy. Every team needs at least 1 or 2 of those. But yeah, they don't have. I don't know. I don't want to say the heart, but they just don't have the consistency and angriness and sense of urgency that other teams have right now.
Boston doesn't have anybody in the middle to protect the rim. They wanted Tristan Thompson to do that, but that's he's horribly miscast in that role. So get what they have this year. They're just really struggling as a team, and I think that's a big part of it.
You're not referring to the fact that Tristan Thompson benefited from LeBron James being on the team, are you?
No, I mean, what players have ever benefited from being on the same team as LeBron James?
None whatsoever. He doesn't make his teammates better, obviously. No.
So
you're completely right, though.
Before we wrap here, I do want to take a victory lap. I had placed a preseason bet on the Cavs to go over 20.5 wins. They currently sit 21 and 41.
Nice.
And this is after they started 10-10, by the way. So like 11 and 31 since the rest of the league decided they wanted to play basketball too.
Yeah. I honestly 2 weeks ago I didn't think they were going to get there.
It took 60, I think it took 59 or 60 games for them to get to 21 wins, and I don't think they get to 25.
No, I don't think so either. Well, clearly when you've got the situations boiling that are boiling with Kevin Love, like it.
He doesn't want to play on the Cavs anymore, and they were stupid to sign him. But how was he going to turn down all that money? He wasn't going to get that anywhere else.
But so shame on your coaching staff. Shame on your coaching staff for continuing to put him on the floor.
Yeah, well, he was mad at the refs. He wasn't mad at his teammates this time. So I guess that's an improvement.
Yeah.
I think he's a guy that loves basketball. Obviously, he's I can't say obviously because he's in the NBA, but he definitely wants to be out there. I just don't think it's for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I know what a lot of teams usually will do if they have a quote unquote disgruntled star. Not saying he's a star or saying that he specifically is disgruntled, but if you have a player who's out there and eating up minutes, they might just shut him down and say, hey, look, we're going to pay you. Just go home and sit your ass home.
I'm going to say that Kevin Love is disgruntled.
If you look, he might be. He's showing signs of it. There's video clips out there of him, showing his frustration on the court with other players, with the schemes that they're running.
But we've seen this with other players. James Harden wasn't happy. He acted out. Blake Griffin didn't act out. He still went through the motions as a pro, but you saw there was he had a lot more hitch in his giddy up when he was in Brooklyn. And you saw the same thing with Andre Drummond when he's out there for the Lakers. And these guys that have played at top levels, like Kevin Love played for a bunch. He played in 4 finals in a row with LeBron. Well, he played in 3 finals in a row with LeBron. He was hurt for one of them, but he's played at that big stage, and this team's terrible. And he's like, what the fuck am I doing out here? I don't need the money.
Yep.
But the Cavs offered him a
money.
4-year, $120 million extension that he wasn't going to make anywhere near that over the next 4 years if the Cavs would have just traded him after LeBron left. So he had to.
I will say that every, for the last, 2 years, it's, are they going to trade Kevin Love? Are they going to trade Kevin Love? But I think this next year, or maybe even this offseason, I think they finally move him. This team has no identity. The players, their draft has been terrible for a couple of years. Their roster construction has just been abysmal, as we talked about that week over week. But I think it's finally time to remove Kevin Love.
This is working, Brandon. The Cavs will tell you this is working. There's a future there.
I understand. They do have a couple of nice players. I mean,
yeah, but they're gonna have to include an asset to trade Kevin Love. Nobody's gonna take him. In a trade, you're going to have to pay the last. I think he's got 2 years left on that deal.
Yeah, that's like what, $60 million right there, or something like that, right? Yeah. So that's a lot. I will say, in his defense, well, not necessarily his defense, but I will say that I'm very happy that any team Kelly Olynyk is on definitely doesn't do well when he's on the court. So we all know what happened when he dislocated his Kevin Love shoulder in the final 2015.
So here's
anytime you mention Kelly Olynyk, I'll always look at him as that guy. So I'm really glad the Rockets are doing poorly.
Kevin Love the next 2 years is 31.2 and then 28.9.
Yeah, so you're giving basically $60 million.
Yeah, nobody's giving up something to take that. Now, Jimmy, my hope is that the Cavs get lucky in the draft and they can actually take like a playmaking guard that's taller than 6'1", and then do they maybe move on from one of the other guards, and that's how they get rid of Kevin Love?
I'm fine with that. I have that sounds too smart for what the Cavs are building.
Yeah, because they say let's just be honest, they need a star, and if they bring in a star, that player is going to want the ball, and you're not going to be able to have Garland, Sexton, and this third wing player that's a creator. Like, that's just not going to work. Like, you can't have those three. Although the Cavs will probably say, no, we'll make it work, because, 2 didn't work, so of course 3 will, right?
Yeah.
You know what Cleveland's going to do? They're going to take a 6'2", 200-pound
they're gonna go all guards.
Yeah, he's gonna run the 4 while Garland and Sexton and Garland are on the court.
Oh my God!
So they're gonna go 6'2", 6'3", 6'2".
And Okoro's gonna be out there trying to defend 3 positions at once, and it's just it's gonna be a disaster. And he's just gonna be out of the league in 3 years, and he's just gonna keep. You'll just see him. He'll have that shell-shocked look on his face, and every time you ask him about his pro career, he'll just kind of like glaze over and shake his head.
It'd be like the Vietnam War veterans, like, oh, you were in Nam, and then all of a sudden they hear helicopters in the background.
Yeah.
Like,
he'll just be seeing random guys running free in his left and right, and just like, oh my God, I can't defend everybody.
No one's playing defense. That's hilarious.
All right, well, I think that's enough for tonight. We'll definitely have some more NBA stuff as we get closer to the playoffs. Brandon, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, been a pleasure. Always, guys. Always a pleasure.
And Jimmy, thank you for joining us as well.
There's no place else I'd rather be, bro.
All right. For the two of these gentlemen, I'm Evan Belfiore. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on No Broken Legs.